The Black Death was a horrible pestilence that killed half of Europe's population in the 14th century and negatively impacted the Church and Christendom. Let's take a closer look at the history of what came to be known as the Pestilence. Europe suffered one of the world's greatest population upheavals in the 14th century, with the arrival of what contemporaries called the Pestilence, and what from the 19th century has been known as the Black Death. The plague that swept Europe in the 14th century changed the history of Christendom and had lasting cultural and religious ramifications. The death toll was catastrophic, as estimates vary from 30 to 70% by area, with an average of 50% of Europe's total population. Plagues had devastated the world in the past, notably the Byzantine Empire in the 6th century, but this new pestilence spread swiftly and killed abundantly. Once infected, an individual experienced an incubation period of 2 to 8 days, after which symptoms appeared. Bacteria collected in the lymph nodes, groin, armpits, neck, and produced painful buboes on the body. High fever, swelling of the lymph nodes, headaches, diarrhea, vomiting, convulsions, dizziness, and delirium could also result. Physicians struggled with treating patients infected with the plague and recommended enemas, bloodletting, cessation of sexual activity, and bathing as treatments. Reactions to the plague varied, but one group developed that caused a stir in medieval society and in the Church, the Flagellants. This group believed the plague was a punishment sent from God on a sinful people. They practiced extreme public penances such as scourging. Some people reacted violently to the plague, especially in the heavily Jewish-populated areas of southern France and Spain. People blamed the Jewish people for the devastating plague, which led to pogroms. Pope Clement VI was appalled at the treatment of the Jewish people and issued a bull on July 4, 1348, that excommunicated anyone who harassed the Jewish people on account of the plague. The Pope also showed the absurdity of the belief that the Jewish people were the cause of the plague, since they were suffering from it as well. Christendom was impacted economically by the plague. The pestilence led to material shortages and the disruption of merchant trade. The loss of population lowered the workforce, but had the positive impact of increasing wages and creating a higher standard of living for the surviving workers. The spiritual response to the plague was positive, as people sought solace from prayer, sacramentals, and the sacraments. The Church was significantly impacted, as clergy suffered a higher percentage of mortality than the laity, as faithful clerics ministered to their flocks in the crisis. Nearly 90% of urban clergy perished, and 40% of all priests in Christendom died. The impact on the clergy was so severe it produced a shortage of priests and resulted in the lowering of the minimum age of ordination to compensate, which left the Church with a generation of undereducated and inexperienced clergy.